Well, welcome to the webcast. My name is Ken Narita. I work here in the marketing department at Ooma. And today's topic is how professional service businesses stay productive in the work from anywhere new normal. And actually, to that end, I hope you, your families, your friends are all doing well and staying healthy. And actually, before we get started, just a couple of notes. Though this webcast is scheduled to go just about 30 minutes, and I think that'll be just about right in terms of the material that I want to cover off. And not planning to do a demo, but we'll see how it goes, just in terms of the timing. And there is also a Q&A box within the webinar console, so feel free to ask your questions. Again, I'm not sure if we're going to actually have time to get to those questions, but rest assured that if we don't, we'll have someone follow up with you to get any of those questions answered for you. And so today's webcast is definitely focused around use cases, and hopefully you'll get some good value out of that content in terms of, at the end of the day, professional service based use cases. And I realize that professional services is sort of a broad term in general. And so I think the kind of use cases that I'm going to primarily touch on today are the ones that where your employees, yourself as a business owner, are spending a lot of time in front of a computer as one example. But then there are other kinds of professional service-based businesses like doctor's offices and real estate and whatnot, where there's just a different kind of use case and approach, to how you guys run your businesses. And so I'll also touch on those as well. So all right, let's get started. So the first slide here I want to show you is the PC Mag Business Choice Award. And I wanted to show this to you not because it's an award that we won 7 years in a row. It's an award that is voted on by readers and users. And so you have to be mindful of the awards that are out there. And this one in particular, because it's voted on by readers and users and not by editors or whatnot, to me is the most important award that is out there. And so we've won it 7 years in a row, and I encourage you to actually look up the award, go to PC Mag and find the award. There's a lot of factors that relate to the overall satisfaction score that you see there, reliability, customer service, so on and so forth. You can definitely read about all of the factors that go into it. And the fact that we've consistently won it 7 years in a row is a great thing. And so if you're looking for the best of the best, you are in the right place. So enough about that. So Ooma Office, as a cloud-based business phone service, has always had this ability for businesses to, operate wherever they are. And it's just heightened, obviously, within this time period that we're living in, where more and more business owners are, number one, concerned about how their employees that are working remote, working from home, are staying connected. How can they continue to build a culture to collaborate and to stay productive on one end of the spectrum? On the other side of the spectrum is, how you as a business are continuing to meet the demands of your customers and to stay connected with your customers. And so again, I'll talk about different use cases that relates to those two areas. And it's just an interesting time to be living in which Ooma Office, our value proposition that we've always led with in terms of enabling small businesses with an enterprise grade business phone service solution that provides all of the same features and functionalities, that gives all of the benefits that large enterprises have enjoyed for so long, is now more prominent than ever. And so, being able to never miss a business opportunity through one of the features, like our virtual receptionist, is something that I'll touch on more. But then, as we touched on a moment ago, working and running your business from anywhere is really facilitated through our mobile app, and more recently through our release of Ooma Office Pro, the desktop app, just has enabled businesses to work more efficiently, to be flexible, and to figure out new ways to continue to engage with their customers, but then also to keep their employees engaged. So as far as the setup options go, because we are cloud-based, we've always had this ability to meet the various situations and scenarios of all kinds of businesses that are using Ooma Office. And so the mobile app and desktop app I touched on before. The Ooma IP phones I'll touch on more in a few seconds, but it's really interesting that because we are a cloud-based business phone service, and if you were using Ooma IP phones at your place of business, you could literally take that phone home and plug it into your internet, and it'll work all in the same way. And what that actually means, I'll touch on in just one second. So Ooma Office is business friendly as well, right? So if you're a business owner listening to this call, or excuse me, this webcast, and you're concerned about a lot of factors, one factor that you shouldn't be concerned about is the fact that we don't lock you into long-term contracts, right? We are zero contracts. You shouldn't have to worry about that ever with any provider, and with other competitors that are out there. Some may offer that, but they're at a higher cost than us, and lower value as well. And then as it relates to just the pricing in and of itself, sometimes you're going to have to read the fine print, in which they may offer a $19.95 monthly service for seemingly the same features that we offer, but you got to be careful, because if there is a certain feature that you may want to utilize more or whatnot, you're going to be nickel and dime for those. And so, as I mentioned, Ooma Office Pro, based on what we've learned from our customers, there was a demand for a different kind of customer that wanted different features. And so we created a new level of Ooma Office where just for $5 more per user, you would have access to those features. And I'll touch on those in a second. But again, we're not going to nickel and dime you for things that you may be wanting to utilize more. And again, depending on the competitor that you may be looking at, you'd find that they would actually be charging you for a lot of different things, whether they may be toll-free numbers or whatnot. So 24/7 customer support is something that we're proud of. And again, if you look at our competitors, some may only be available during normal business hours. Some may not be available on the weekends. And because we are really catering to the small business owner, we know that you guys are operating at all times of the day, all times on the weekends, and we want to be there for you. And so that's why we have consciously made the decision to be 24/7 to meet that need. So, all right, Ooma Office Pro. So the soft phone is one of the core features as it relates to Ooma Office Pro. And it's a great feature because it enables you to not necessarily purchase a desktop phone and still give you a lot of the same features. And so really it depends on your needs, right? Because a lot of the IP phones that we offer, they come with hardware-based features and functionalities, meaning that some of those hardware phones can actually handle 6 calls simultaneously or 4 calls simultaneously, and just are loaded with a lot of different things. And the desktop app, which includes a soft phone, has a lot of functionality to it. But again, based on your business need, you may decide to actually, you know what, maybe a hardware phone would better suit me. But what it does give you is the flexibility to use and to be connected immediately through your laptop without actually having to purchase a hardware phone. And so again, depending on your situation, depending upon the kind of business that you're running, depending upon how you want to keep your employees connected or how clients want to connect with you, and how you want to manage or work through that, the desktop app that includes a soft phone might be a great option for you. So Ooma Office Pro also includes call recording. And if you are a business that is customer service focused, or you have a lot of sales call and you want to do a lot of coaching and training, call recording is a great feature to coach and to record those calls and to listen to them and to figure out where the improvement areas are. Or if you're a business like a legal-based business or a medical-based business and recording calls are important for compliance reasons, again, call recording is an obvious feature that supports the need there. Enhanced call blocking. So Ooma Office in of itself, the standard version has call blocking, but Ooma Office Pro, we've added an additional layer where we are tapping into a database of 1 million plus known robocallers. And it's a great feature to also have, obviously, because who likes robocalls? And it also enables you to create more customized call block list as well. So it's just another added feature. And there's a handful of more features that come with Ooma Office Pro, and I encourage you to actually go to ooma.com and learn more about them. But those are the top 3 that I actually wanted to mention within this call today. So let's move on here because we are already 11 minutes into it. So the use cases and the whole reason why we're here in terms of talking about how, first of all, to keep employees connected. And the first one is, it's kind of funny actually, when I think of multi-ring and keeping employees connected, no matter where they are, I think of, I'm not sure if any of you watched the episode of The Office where one of the characters came up with woof, and it's spelled WUPHF, and I encourage you to actually go to YouTube it and look for that video. It's actually pretty funny because it's actually very similar to our multi-ring feature in that your employees can have the mobile app installed on their phone, and you can, when somebody dials their extension or dials their number, not only would their desktop phone ring, but their mobile app would ring. And then if you had Ooma Office Pro, their desktop app soft phone would ring. And not only that, you can also set up multi-ring to also ring an external number. And so if you not only wanted to keep your employees connected and to ensure that you got a hold of somebody and you are ringing every single possible endpoint, that is one of the great features that we have. And it's certainly relevant also for staying connected with your clients too. And I have that mentioned on the next slide, but certainly I wanted to mention it on this slide. So group text messaging. So we're all familiar with group, text messaging. And through the mobile app, though, what you create, though, is the division between personal and business text messaging. And what you can create are specific groups within the app so that you can still also have a little bit of, more fun in terms of retaining, your culture or your tone of your team or your company. And as we all know, MMS and SMS, enable us to have a different tone versus, communication over email versus communication over phone. And again, depending on the kind of culture you're wanting to maintaining, it enables you with another option to do so. And so obviously there is a use case here for clients to interact with certain groups in which you can, enable that too. But keeping your employees connected through, a work-based messaging app is definitely something to consider, right? I do it as well. Keep my employees connected, and it's just a fun way. It's just a fun way and another outlet of communication to enable that, again, in a work environment versus a personal environment. So extension dialing, as simple as that feature is a great way to actually keep employees connected, right? So if you were, pre-COVID and you were in the office and you had your desktop phone, for me and for a lot of my peers, it's very, very easy and practical to simply just hit speakerphone, hit the extension number. You're dialing whom you want to connect to, and then you're connected to them. Even in this environment where we're all geographically dispersed, and you had employees take their desktop phones home, their Ooma desktop phones home, extension dialing still works, right? Number one. Number two, extension dialing works on their mobile app. And so if you wanted to, again, still have that immediate connectivity to your employees, or you're keeping your employees connected to each other, it works from the perspective of not only the desktop phones, but also the apps as well. So extension dialing, I mentioned the use case just now, and the thing about it as it relates to one of the features is intercom, which is very akin to extension dialing. And so a lot of so one common use case for intercom is where, for example, you have a CEO and an executive assistant, right? Where the CEO wants to immediately get a hold of that executive assistant. And when the CEO dials that person's extension, it immediately answers on the other end on the speakerphone. And again, that same functionality would work no matter, if the executive assistant was in the San Francisco Bay Area and the CEO was in New York. It's still going to work the same way. And so to immediately connect, in that situation, that is one use case. And again, that could actually still also work for employees, right? If you have employees that are working on a project together and they needed to stay in constant connection with each other, and they had a relationship where, receiving that call on the other end, prompting the speakerphone is not a problem. That is also one way to keep employees connected. So conference calls are also very important. I don't think there's really much to explain there, except that every single one of your users would have a conference call ID assigned to them. They can use that to all of their needs in terms of scheduling calls, using them ad hoc. And what's more important too is that not everybody, in terms of their bandwidth at home, is unlimited. So we all hopefully have internet connections at home, and but not all of those internet connections have unlimited bandwidth. And so being at home, we're certainly using internet bandwidth for video and for a lot of different other things. The reality is not most calls need video. And so if you also wanted to reduce bandwidth usage, but you needed to stay connected or wanted to collaborate, via an audio conference call, know that you would be able to enable all of your employees with a conference call ID as well. So let me move on to best practices to serve clients. So I touched on a moment ago the fact that some of those ways to keep your employees connected also can work to stay connected with your clients. And certainly one of those, again, is the multi-ring, right? It's actually, a really great feature to have. And if some of your employees are providing those numbers to your clients, that client is going to be able to dial that number and know that, or on the other end, have a lot of endpoints be ringing at the same time. There's an interesting combination with multi-ring and ring groups. And so let's say you were a business in which you had a ring group set up for sales or customer service, or maybe your IT staff, or what have you. It could be a variety of different things. And let's say everybody was also, again, in this time period, geographically dispersed. But you had a caller calling in and they're hitting 1 for sales. And let's say you had 3 people as part of that ring group all across the US. And what that would do is all 3 of those individuals that are part of that ring group, their extensions could ring sequentially or simultaneously. Now, the thing is, when you combine that with multi-ring, is that if you're part of that ring group and you are have multi-ring enabled, you are getting all of those, all your endpoints are ringing at the same time as part of that ring group. And so a great way, if you're, a business owner and you're not wanting to miss a call at all, to enable that feature is a great option. Another great option is, in terms of serving clients, is the virtual receptionist. And I mentioned it down below too, in terms of managing your calls better, because the virtual receptionist, in terms of being reached, can be set up in a lot of different ways, right? You can have, as soon as somebody calls into the virtual receptionist, messages that say, dial 1 for so and so, dial 2 for so and so, or dial 3 for the sales group that I just mentioned. And so, in terms of making sure that every single call is answered, the virtual receptionist will enable you to do that and to route those calls properly. And how you manage those calls is so important because you can create the directories, you can create the departments, but then you can also create the sub-level menus that relate to it in terms of, and again, enabling your clients to reach whomever. And so let's say you were a business that was dispersed across the nation, and you could set up your virtual receptionists to indicate to dial 1 for location in Dallas, or dial 2 for the location in New York, dial 3 for Seattle, wherever it might be. And you can also do the same thing, create another sub-level menu above or below that that's in different languages. And so what you would do is you could say dial 1 for Spanish, and then record and upload all of the menu options in Spanish into your virtual receptionist. And then again, combined with the ring groups and combined with the multi-rings, what you're doing is you're ensuring that all your clients are getting to where they want to get to faster. So group text messaging, I already mentioned. Extension dialing, I already alluded to. And call forwarding, again, is a feature that I think probably most of us would be familiar with and almost view as a standard feature. And we definitely offer that as well, right? Where you as a user can set up your preference where you could forward calls to another number, and that's easily done through each user's administration portal. So in terms of the second bullet there under manage your calls better, the call park feature is actually a pretty interesting feature. And it's different from call transfer, right? With call transfer, it's almost like a blind transfer, right? Where you, as somebody who's on a call with a particular client, and they need to be transferred to somewhere else, another department or another person, you're going to transfer that call, not knowing whether that person is actually there. And the issue or concern there is, let's say you're actually working with a client that's actually pretty upset, but you're not going to be able to help them, and you do need to transfer that call. But if that client who's already upset reaches that other employee's number or extension and it reaches their voicemail, that's just going to make that client even more upset. So what Call Park does is you can put that caller on hold, but park that caller into a designated parking spot. And the parking spots are essentially the numbers on your phone. And then what you can do is confirm whether that person that you want to handle that call is available. And you can notify that person to basically say, pick up the call on the parking spot number that's assigned. And so on the other end, and again, let's say these two individual employees are on the opposite sides of the nation, that person on the other side of the nation can pick up that call by literally pressing in that designated parking number. So it's a great feature to have, right? Especially, again, that use case that I just mentioned. Other use cases really relate to high volume businesses. So, for example, I know this is not a professional service business, but let's say you're a restaurant, right? Or you're a a pizzeria, and you had multiple calls coming in at 12 o'clock to order pizzas. You can park these calls and essentially attend to them. And again, it's a little bit different than putting a call on hold, because if you have other folks that are within your place of business that can handle those calls, those individuals can now pick up those calls as well without having to disrupt the experience of that caller. So ring groups, again, I think I probably mentioned this feature ad nauseum, but in terms of how it can be utilized sequentially, you can set any number of your users to be part of a ring group, and you can set up the feature where if somebody dials that ring group, and you can name that ring group to anything that you want, it will dial all of the people within that ring group simultaneously or sequentially, depending on how you actually want it to go. So maybe you want to have the call first go to Jane versus John. That is easily done as well. So front desk client interactions. So what's great about the virtual receptionist is that you can actually set it up where instead of having callers go directly into the virtual receptionist, where if you were a business that wanted to have an enhanced experience, customer experience, you could set up the virtual receptionist where you could actually, have a physical person answer those calls first. And you don't have to do it all the time. You can set it up for certain times of the day in which a physical person would be answering those calls and then routing those calls. And so after picking up those calls, then that person can essentially do all of the same things that you would probably expect a front desk person to do in terms of redirecting that call, connecting it to another extension, connecting it to a ring group. Another great feature that we have is overhead paging. And so let's say you were a doctor's office and you had a caller where it was a pretty urgent call and the caller needed to reach the doctor, but the doctor was nowhere to be found. And so our overhead paging feature can actually connect into third-party speaker systems and then be able to overhead page that doctor to then reach that doctor more quickly, right? And so in the same way that I mentioned the intercom feature before, that is also another feature that another great, quote unquote, front desk client interaction use case as well, right? Where that front desk person can reach the person immediately to then address that incoming caller's needs. So hopefully I've touched on different use cases that you guys can internalize and visualize how they could be relevant to your business. And what I also wanted to provide you here is essentially the features list, right, for what Ooma Office offers. Does not contain the features for Ooma Office Pro that I touched on earlier in the presentation, and this features list can be accessed on Ooma.com, as well as obviously exploring more and more of all of the features and use cases that I mentioned today. And so with that said, here is our phone number to call, 877-959-6662. And Ooma.com/office is the shortcut to get into the Ooma Office section of the website. Hopefully I delivered on the content that you were hoping to hear. If not, definitely provide your feedback in the Q&A section and I'll improve upon it next time. So with that said, stay safe out there and hopefully we'll be seeing you as a customer soon. Appreciate it. Bye for now. Thanks.